Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Within Range Coaching Podcast. I'm Ranger, a certified holistic success coach, and in this podcast, I break down the journey entrepreneurs face as they start their organizations, overcome roadblocks in their way, and create an impact that lasts. We talk with entrepreneurs, nonprofit leaders, and purpose-driven community members just like you. Together, we learn how to grow our impact and develop ourselves as the people behind the mission. My intention is to help more people. And remember, if you're curious about expanding your impact, growing a community, or defining your mission, vision, or values, we can chat off the record. You can find my info in the show notes or at my website, withinrangecoaching.com. We're also looking to build our sponsor community with organizations and individuals who align with our values of fearless innovation, social responsibility, and courageous candor. If you're interested in helping us highlight individuals doing great work in the world and share these values, reach out to me directly at ranger@withinrangecoaching.com. I know you're just as eager to get started as I am, so let's jump right in. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of the Within Range Coaching Podcast. We're continuing on with my Walk Across America series, and in today's episode, we are speaking with David Mathews of Bike Friendly ATL. Our discussion today dives in on David's background of being a high-performing tennis player, a life-changing accident, and, of course, why he decided to place white bikes all over the Southeast. So sit back, relax, and let's dive into today's discussion. All right, everybody, and we are joined now by David Mathews of Bike Friendly ATL. David, thank you so much for joining us today.
You're welcome. Enjoy it.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And the reason I wanted you on the podcast is because, again, this is part of my Walk Across America series where I'm interviewing nonprofit leaders, entrepreneurs, community members that I've met along the way or in some way have influenced my walk. And to be completely honest, this is the first time that we've talked, with audio or video or met at all. And that's kind of unique to most of the other guests that I've had on the episode. Usually I've had a conversation or met with them in person. But really the reason that I reached out to you and Bike Friendly ATL is because your mission and what you do, I guess, I don't know the right word to say, impacted, spooked me a little bit, I guess might be kind of a good way, or I don't know. It's just a really poignant message that you guys have with your ghost bikes. And I would really love to just kind of share your mission, what you guys do with your, I don't know if you would call them art installations or memorials or what you would do, but I just think that it's a very unique project that you guys have going on. So thank you for taking the time to hang out with me today.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Anything I can do to, spread awareness, create a safer, total safer environment for everybody to grow up and live life with is definitely what we're after.
Perfect. Yeah. And then just to kind of jump it off, David, if you could just explain a little bit about your background kind of leading up to Bike Friendly ATL, and then we can really get into your mission with the ghost bikes and what they represent.
Sure. I guess, being a former athlete, I don't want to say world-class tennis player because people think world-class is like on TV. And, there's no subcategories, which there are. There are 2 or 3 other subcategories to being on the TV. But I played a lot of high-level tennis around the United States, around in Europe, represented the country a couple of times on national teams. So, I was a pretty good tennis player, whether that's good or bad or ugly. That's just the way it was. Started training, a lot of my training early on for tennis mostly, but I was originally a basketball nut. I loved basketball growing up. And I learned at about the age of 20, used to do a lot of long distance running, for training and stamina work and things like that. And I had one of my, when I walked on my 5th year of eligibility in college, I was going to walk on for the basketball team. I'd finally gotten a growth spurt later than most. My growth spurt came from about 19 to 20 years old. I grew 7 inches in 18 months. And people were like, wait a minute. And I was still in the community that I grew up in. So all my friends were like, what are you eating? What drug you on or something? And I was like, oh my gosh, nothing. But all of a sudden I went from about 5'10" out of high school to about 6'5" in about 18 months. And all of a sudden basketball became, actually, I could actually maybe play a forward position or something. Whereas normally 5'10", you ain't gonna play nothing. And so I was in my assistant coach, then in college, the team that I walked on and made at my Division II school. He came in one day to the dorm and he said, hey, let's go down to the clinic. I got a friend, in the clinic. Let's go visit him and, kind of, raise his spirits a little bit. Just had knee surgery. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Yeah. And I'm thinking, what kind of clinic is this? Is this inpatient, outpatient? Is it for other things? I don't know. And we get down there. And when we walked in his room, I looked to my left and I was in the doorway and I looked to my left and his crutches were as tall, about top of my head height. And I'm going, wait a minute. This is not a normal guy. This is a big guy. It was Tree Rollins, who played for the Atlanta Hawks. He was in Columbus having knee surgery, and at the Houston clinic back then was very world renowned for all these athletes flying in for knee surgery. And I mean, like seconds after I was in the doorway, all of a sudden this assistant came in, and she was followed by another assistant rolling an exercise bike. And Dr. Houston followed them all in, and I just kind of scooted over out of the way. Well, they kind of scooted me out of the way. And Dr. Houston says, looked at Tree Rollins, and he says, well, time for you to get to work. And he goes, well, Doc, I just had surgery yesterday at 4:00. What are you talking about? I need some pain meds. And he goes, get your butt up and get on the bike, and let's get that knee ready to go. You need to get back in uniform soon. And I'm like, if you have knee surgery and the first thing a doctor wants to do, like 12, 14 hours later, get you on an exercise bike, my cogs in my head, my gears in my head started turning. And as soon as Dr. Houston got through with Tree and got him on the bike, and it was kind of a painful experience, Dr. Houston got over by me, and I said, I got to ask you one question, doctor. What if I had gotten on the bike before having knee surgery? Tell me about that one. He goes, one of the best ways to build your knees is a bicycle. It has no pounding on it. It has, total range of motion. You're building the quadricep, which supports the knee more than anything. He goes, a lot of knee surgeries will not be happening if people get on bikes instead of running. And sure enough, through the years, I've watched I've had one of my tennis students, he qualified for the Boston Marathon one year, loved running, but after about 2 or 3 years of really training and go to the Boston Marathon, he, basically got on a bike too, because your knees just take a brutal pounding by running. And it's not a bad thing. Some people can do it, but a lot of people can't. That's why orthopedic surgeons are in big demand. And so since college, I started cycling a lot. And then at the age of 52, still playing really high-level tennis here in the Atlanta area, got hit head-on by an automobile on a training ride one day in Tucker, Georgia. And a gentleman, 86-year-old, came across the road, hit me literally head-on. My face went right into his windshield. The bridge of I had cycling goggles, cycling glasses on. They were clear. It was middle of the day, 1:30 in the afternoon. And the bridge of the cycling goggles were embedded in my nose. They couldn't get them off. And so, 5 hours of surgery later, I lost 3 front teeth, split my upper lip, split my chin, whatever else happened. Basically went through a long process. Now I'm single, lost everything that I had. Is it due to that? I'll tell you, I have put out now, and so basically a year later after I got hit, a gentleman in Decatur, I went down to repaint his ghost bike. I don't know if you saw one of my feeds yesterday. I was painting one on the west side of Atlanta, but I went down Friday morning to repaint this gentleman, Paul Taylor's He was killed in 2012, about a mile and a half from my house there in Decatur. And one of my groups said, we need to get this guy a ghost bike. Well, the frame that I was hit on was on my garage wall. I pulled it down, painted it white, put him a little placard on it, what happened. And it has been there ever since 2012 until I showed up Friday and it's not there. Well, guess where I'll be going very soon to replace that bike, because I've learned that politicians don't really like me coming around, because I do paint a picture of possibly your city is not safe for everybody to use the roads conjunctly or together. I started doing that in 2012, about a little over a year after I got hit head on. I didn't know how it would affect me or would affect me. I just thought the first thing was, being a person that my mother was a driver's ed teacher, taught me how to drive and use the roads in my car, taught me probably better than most driver's ed courses. And I wish that we as society could get back to some of that mentality of how to drive, because we've lost a lot of it. And I saw a couple of your feeds talking about close passes and things, and people don't understand the impact that maiming or killing someone does to that person. I used to ride a bike. Was I careless? Absolutely not. I know when I go down, no matter if it's my fault or not, I'm going to be in serious trouble. And it's not okay for somebody else to do it and think that it's just an accident and you should just live your life and go on, and they have no penalty for driving irresponsibly. One of my t-shirts says, it's got a gun in a car, and it says, why does one of these used improperly get jail time and the other doesn't? And I understand the way people think, but driving is a privilege. It's not a right, a God-given right. So if you don't want to do it correctly, don't get behind the wheel, because the risk you put everybody else involved is not worth it. It's not you. It's everybody else on the road. And there are a lot of people on the road, not only just in cars, but bicycles, pedestrians, everybody. So I did the first one. And I think if any of your reader followers go to my website, they'll see the first picture. The Atlanta Journal-Constitution came out while I was building that ghost bike. And my next door neighbor, even, he's a documentary filmmaker. He came over. And it just coincidentally, he didn't know I was doing it. He came out of his house and he came over and asked me what I was doing. He thought I was working on my bike, my real bike. And I said, no, I'm working on a ghost bike for a fallen friend right up the road here. He goes, hold on one second. He goes, I got to go get my camera. And I'm like, your camera? Why would you go get your camera for this? And he came back. And later he told me that through his endeavors, through documentary filmmaking, he can see passion in people when they start talking. He sees it. And he went and videoed the whole thing. I've got a little 11-minute video about that day. And my banner on my website is me from that picture of the AJC working on Paul Taylor's first ghost bike. Everything that I've done since then has a link. It links either me to something that has taken me on this journey. Like, I don't know if you've noticed, people ask me where I get the logo on my hat. You can't really see it, but anyway, the logo on my hat, it's a bike that I ride on my trainer in the garage on, whatever days I don't want to get on the road and ride. It's a silhouette of that bike called the Bike of Angels. It's got two wheels on it. And if you notice the wheels on my logo, there are 5 spokes, which is not like a normal bicycle wheel. But normal bicycle wheels have 18 to 32 spokes. Well, this one has 5. They're all carbon fiber. They're really thick, like 2 inches. And that bike is all white, just like my ghost bikes. And on every spoke on those 2 wheels are names of fallen riders, from the past years. I don't have all 129 on there, but I have a lot, probably like 60 or 70 in big black bold letters. And that those 2 wheels actually lived through my crash. So the company is out of Indiana, and they tout or they promote their bicycle wheels as being bomb-proof. And I'm living testament that They lived through a head-on crash, and they still roll, and they're still rolling on my trainer. So I started doing the first one for Paul Taylor, and I initially thought about doing, mainly just like the 9 or 10 counties around Atlanta, this, and this. And then I set up a Google search, and I get my Google search engine. It searches, in the evening, and I get it about 11 p.m. every night. And I'm sitting in my office here, and literally if I'm in bed and I get that search engine and it comes in with, reports, if I see an article of a surrounding 7-state area of somebody getting hit and killed on a bicycle, I automatically go to the top of the article, hit print, and it prints right here in my office. And so when I come in the next day, I start mapping. When can I get over there and put out, like, I just got through with one trip. I went to Savannah one day. I left here at 4 a.m., went down to Savannah, placed 4 ghost bikes around Savannah, and then drove up into South Carolina near Gaston and Anderson. And I put 3 more out over there and got back here at 2 a.m. the next morning. So I basically drive all day putting out ghost bikes. And I get, most of the time, emails from a loved one, a family member of somebody, of how it means so much to them that somebody they don't even know cares. And to me, if there's nothing else I do for people in this life, it's to, maybe we can all create a following, with some of your followers and other people trying to do good things. Maybe we can turn this thing around, because the cesspool is spinning and it has a lot of tentacles out there. You're talking money, I hear people all the time say, well, I got some investors, not investors, but like people that want to help nonprofits, this, and this. I love that idea of people helping nonprofits. My problem with that is people that want to give you money, but yet tell you what you can't say. Because what I say goes against, that's not against. I mean, like I said, my mother was a driver's ed teacher. She did it because of the goodness of her heart. She was a special ed teacher. Most of her kids couldn't drive, so they couldn't really get a job. But the jobs that were offered around them in that age were jobs that a special needs kid could take. Something that they don't get tired of. A special needs kid never gets tired of doing the same job. Me and you, after about 3 weeks of the same job, we're looking, okay, what else can I do? They wouldn't. They would keep doing the same job perfectly every day. And the jobs that were there, they just couldn't get to because they couldn't drive. Well, she was normally a special ed teacher. Well, she went back to Auburn, got her driver's education certificate so that she could teach her kids how to pass the driver's test. When she first went into the DMV's office, the guy there says, well, who are you bringing in? Oh, my special needs kids. Oh, they can't drive. And she goes, well, I don't understand. Why can't they? If they pass the test and can drive with you in the car, can't they drive? Well, yeah, of course, but they can't pass the test, he said. She goes, I tell you what, how many people take the driver's test verbally? And he goes, oh, like maybe 5%. She goes, I tell you what, when you're giving somebody a verbal driver's ed test, if they don't answer the question that you ask them, will you go back to it? He goes, yeah, we'll go back to it at the end of the test. Give them a second chance. She says, I'll tell you what, I will have my students come and take the test verbally. If they pass on a question that they can't answer at the time, count it wrong. Don't go back to it. Count it wrong. And if they don't make, and she said, is the quota right now 80% you got to make to pass the test? He goes, yes, 80%. She said, if they don't make 90 or higher, they fail. And he goes, oh, you'll never have anybody pass. She never had anybody score less than 98 on the test. And those kids went and got driver's license, could now go to the job in the mill that they would do every day to help support their family, because They can't live out on their own. They're special needs kids, but they can help support the family that they belong to. And
Yeah.
I was like, wow, that is heart on heart. You know, not only are you a special needs teacher, but now you see these kids can help their families, but you're going to go back to school to help them be able to drive to a job to help their families.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. And it sounds like your mother and her passion, just like you were saying that with your friend, like he can see passion and he can hear when somebody talks about it. Like even just now hearing you talk about your mother's passion,
Right.
that sounds like it really bleeds through. And again, like I kind of mentioned off air at the very beginning, the entire premise, the thing that I would love to get out with this podcast is that there is opportunity, that there are good people out there, that we can make a difference for others. And it sounds like your mother taking that extra step of saying, hey, there's this issue. These special needs kids are having, I don't know, problems getting their driver's license. And even the DMV people saying it's
Yep.
impossible, it's not going to happen. And her saying, let's try it though, you know? So it sounds like that really bleeds into and carries on into what you're doing with your ghost bikes. And if we can just kind of go back for just a quick second,
Sure.
with the ghost bikes in particular, because you said you started in 2012, correct?
Correct.
So what gave you the initial idea of the ghost bike in particular? How did you see that somewhere else, or did you just kind of go?
It's kind of like what I'm sure you've seen a ton of time. People ask me all the time, what keeps you going? And I go, there are things that I see that maybe one day I'll sit down and write in my memoirs or whatever, but they are nothing less than God sent signs to keep your butt going. And I had seen a documentary, I think it was on CNN. I mean, literally, this was like in the late 2000s, like 2007, 8, 9, somewhere in there. I just happened to see CNN one night. They were talking about this ghost bike thing. And I'm a cyclist. You know, I've been cycling quite a long time. And I'm like, okay, got it. And I watched it. It's only like a minute and a half, 2 minutes. But originally, ghost bike started, from what I heard from that, was in St. Louis. And it really got big in New York because that's where there's tons of couriers in New York. They not only deliver executive documents and things like that have to be signed and returned immediately for lawyers and all that kind of stuff. But, you know, in New York, people don't drive because it costs so much to A, have a car, B, to park it. And so couriers, that's how they get things done in New York. The emails are great, but if it's got to be physically signed, the courier is the dude, and he's on a bike, and he gets down there and back. And so that's where it really took off now is that, you know, these couriers and cyclists in New York are getting hit and killed. And what are we doing? Why do we feel you're going to get anywhere faster in a car, especially in a major metropolitan area, when a bicycle is going to be within about 5 or 10 minutes, even in a 10 or 12 mile commute? I got one of my friends I cycle with in Decatur when I lived there. We would ride from 6 to 7 a.m. every morning, a group of whole big group, like 15 people, about 15-mile ride, get back to the house about 7:15, get your shower, and the 8 o'clock people can get to work with no problem. It was a great group. He worked for CNN downtown, 7.5 mile commute. He would leave our group, get home about 7:15, get on his commuter bike. He had a big backpack with extra clothes that he was going to change into when he got to work. And they had a shower there. He would leave at 7:20, 7:30. He'd be downtown in a half hour, no problem. By bike. And a lot of guys that he worked with, with motor, ride a car from there to CNN, same track, and they would get there at like 5 till. And he's looking at them going, and I don't have to go to the gym to work out now. I'm done. And people were amazed. I mean, yeah, of course, not everybody's going to be fast to start out with, but you get in better shape by doing it. But the mere fact that humanity in itself has manifested itself in such a way now that when the word on the street is, if you want to commit a murder and get away with it, hit somebody on a bicycle and with a car, is tragic. It is absolutely appalling and tragic to me because what people don't understand is that you're devastating a family, not a person, a family for life, a whole lifetime. Anytime somebody, and I'm glad we're talking on Zoom because and then you wouldn't say it, but anytime somebody comes up to me and says, "Oh, it's sad that they got hit and killed, but time will heal it," they need to step away from me because I'm about to hit you so hard that your next lifetime will come up fast. Because this one has eluded you. It doesn't go away. It doesn't.
And that's something that I've kind of noticed, whether it is a natural tragedy, a man-made issue, terrorism, all these things. It's, this many killed, this many injured. And I feel like that has gotten to the point that any loss just kind of feels, I don't want to say normalized, but maybe that is the right. Yeah, like you're just kind of numb to it. So when you hear, a biker, I was just going to say, like, a pedestrian hit, a biker hit, like it has like a level of separation. And that's like kind of what you were saying with, if you want to get away with it, because I'm in very remote areas. I mean, I'm pushing my little buggy, my stroller. I have my backpack. And I mean, I knock on all of the wood, but that's something that I've thought about. Like, if I were to be hurt or injured, what would happen? Like, these people could just leave. There's no cameras out here. There's no nothing. And that's the joke I've made before with, kind of tongue-in-cheek dark humor. But like, I don't want to piss anybody off while I'm on this walk because I'm such an easy target. And I mean, that's kind of going to with what you're saying, is that even in these populated areas, and I mean, I see even just in New Mexico, I've seen so many crosses on the side of the road. I mean, I've seen those in every single state, but it's just always such that strong reminder. And I think what's so unique about the Ghost bike is, one, you have, I mean, just even on the one behind you in your Zoom, every single one of them, from what I've seen, has the name, RIP, location, your hashtag, and a number. And I think it's so unique in that fact that you're not just putting a white bike out there to signify something bad happened here. It's like something bad happened to, in this case, Tom. Like, this was their name. Like, I Googled somebody that was on one of the Ghost bikes and I found them. And that's what's so unique in it from my perspective of what you do. It gives a name, and like you were saying earlier, gives that shows that family that somebody cares outside of their immediate circle.
Absolutely. I had one of my shirts, not this one. The unique thing about and I laugh now, but you should have asked me to sponsor you on your walk, because this is the color shirt that I wear ever since I got hit head on. I teach tennis for a living, and my kids, I have people will text me on Facebook or Instagram some nights, and they're, "Hey, I saw you today." And I go, "Where?" And they go, "Oh, I drove by the tennis courts. I could tell you were out there because you're wearing your Optic Yellow in your hat." Everybody, and when I play now in my senior group, not group, but a league we have here, they all know when I'm coming to play, the guy in yellow is coming. And they laugh about it, but they're starting to learn now that there's a reason and a cause behind what I wear. It's because I got missed one time in 52 years, and I don't ever want that to happen again. I don't want it to happen to anybody. And I was going to say, you need to be wearing Optic Yellow out there so that if they come over that hill and they don't see you just on the other side of it, maybe that Optic Yellow, they pick up a little better.
Yeah, visibility is, I mean, I hang a safety vest from one of my old jobs off the back of my backpack. I have the Optic Yellow
flag,
like one of the clips on my backpack. I wear the vest. I have the flag. So like I mean, if you want to send me a hat, let me know. I'll
absolutely, absolutely. I'll send you whatever you want. Yes.
Welcome to the mountaintop. Are you an entrepreneur or nonprofit leader ready to make a bigger impact in the world, but aren't sure how to do it or even where to start? Then join the Never Peak community on School, where bold movers, shakers, and magic makers come together to achieve their dreams and support others on the way to theirs. Our goal is to help leaders change the world by first focusing on themselves. By fostering a community rooted in support and learning, my goal is to help you be more effective in your organization, achieve your biggest dreams, and make time for what really matters in your life. In Never Peak, you'll find weekly book club meetings, engaging courses, weekly mastermind calls, monthly Q&As with industry experts, and networking opportunities that span the globe. Our courses and discussions cover essential topics like personal finance, work-life balance, goal setting, relationship building, business topics, and so much more. Each course is designed to support you to holistically grow yourself as the person behind the mission. And oh yeah, one more thing I forgot to mention. That at the time of recording this, the community is completely free. That's right, you can get started for $0 down. But it won't last for long. All you need to do is to go to school.com/neverpeak or hit the link in the show notes to claim your spot on the mountain. Again, be sure you get in now. I can't wait to see you there and witness the peaks you'll reach in just a few weeks. Okay, so it sounds like the ghost bike movement was already an established thing, and you just kind of said, "Oh, I could do that down here."
Yeah, I didn't really know where it had. I didn't never know. I knew where it started, basically what they said, and then I didn't know how big it was in New York. I know there are a lot of couriers in New York, and I had heard of some around. I'm trying to think. I really had never seen one, per se. And then when I started getting my news feeds from Google, my Google searches, it got to be, I was like, oh my God, this is not just happening. Atlanta is a big, obviously a major metropolitan area with like 7 to 9 million in whatever, 8 or 9 counties, but it's happening everywhere. I mean, it's crazy. And then I put out about maybe 10 or 15, and I've got an Excel spreadsheet over here that has all of my ghost bikes listed, where they were, what numbers on the ghost bikes. But if I go back out, I can put that same number and information on there. I tell people all the time, I have a messenger group with out of 129 ghost bikes, I have I think it's 74 or 5 members on this messenger list. And I am the only one on there that has not lost a family member to a bicycle crash. They all are fallen friends, immediate family members. And whenever I have something to ask them, like this shirt, you can't really see it, I Heart BFA, which is that BFA is Bike Friendly Atlanta. This idea was given to me. I asked one of my girls that I coach, she's only like 12. I said, what could I do? She was going to donate a scooter, because I actually have not only ghost bikes, I have ghost scooters, I have a ghost wheelchair, and I have a ghost chair. So I have literally, the only thing I haven't gotten into, which I think that's what all the little crosses are for, are people that are killed in automobiles. And, I raised a question the other day on my Instagram account. What would people say if all of a sudden, and I would not be able to do it, but what if I started putting like a pair of white shoes out every time somebody got killed in a car? I mean, it would. My news feed every night would just be obliterated. It would be probably 50 people a day from around the Southeast getting killed by car versus car crashes, and we think those are accidents. No, drunk driving, distracted driving, drugged driving, and speeding are the 4 leading factors to crashes in cars.
Yeah,
you take those 4 factors out, and I'll guarantee you the roads and fatalities will go straight to the bottom.
Yeah, no, the saying that I have for myself is, don't attribute to malice what can be attributed to incompetence. And that's just so that I don't get, when people, like, I've had a few close calls very recently with,
Sure.
whatever. And it's always kind of like, was that on purpose? Are you trying to be a jerk? Like, I've definitely had people where I kind of question, like, are you just trying to hit the homeless guy? Are you trying to scare the pedestrian because you're mad and upset? Like, there's no one coming from the other way. Why are you doing this? And to that, I've seen so many people swerve randomly, and it kind of makes you question, are you sober?
Right.
See people, with the phone in their face, like kind of half
looking,
sure. And it's like, and I'll admit, like, I've texted and driven before. It's a bad habit. I've done it. And
Sure.
now with this experience, it's like that is probably the stupidest thing,
It is.
because there's been times where, like you said, I'm coming up over a hill and I'm thinking to myself, oh, okay, like I'm going to go to the other side because that's not much time if they're screwing around, if they're distracted.
Right.
And then I go, oh my God, how many times have I, even just changing the radio, been distracted? Have I been
Yep.
thinking about something else and been distracted and kind of swerve
Yep.
a little bit?
Yep.
So I mean, this whole experience for me changed how I drive for sure.
Sure.
But I mean, coming into New Mexico, there's so many signs of report intoxicated driving. And I think I've seen more in New Mexico than I have in other states, or maybe it's just the
Right.
areas I'm going through.
Right.
But I don't know. If I was just oblivious to it before, but how big a problem drunk and inebriated driving is when it comes to fatalities.
Absolutely. And to me, for us as a massive technology led society, we have so many options to stop it. So many. I mean, I'm sitting there the other day. I just transferred over. I found me a better insurance rate, and the insurance company, and I won't mention them, I think every one of them do it. They offer you to send you a little pod that will plug into your car. And there's a little plug up on it. I think even I had one in my old car, which was a 2015. That's 9 years old. If you've got a car around 2015 or so or newer, they can give you a little pod that will plug in, and it will see how you drive, and your insurance rates will be adjusted for that. And I think that should be mandatory. People go, well, that's my privacy. No, it's our safe roads. End of story.
And I have a 2005 Honda and I had a 2006 Nissan, which was totaled in a car accident where the lady was distracted and hit me. But whatever, everybody was fine. I was just annoyed because it happened a month before I started the walk and I had to buy a new car. But with that, even with the older cars, I had a phone app that tracked my driving, and every once in a while it would say, hey, you're going a little fast, or oh, hey, I don't know, had some hard stops, and I'm like, oh my God. And things like that, you kind of become blind to. So even just that accountability for yourself, saying, oh, I didn't realize I was going so fast, or I didn't realize I had so many hard stops. Like, that's helped me correct my driving and get to be better and safer on the road. Because like you said, driving isn't a right, it's a privilege. Now, I will add that the infrastructure and the way that the cities are 100% designed for cars.
Absolutely.
I have been in cities where sidewalks randomly go off like a small cliff. They are not connected well.
Sure.
The sensors don't work, or the crosswalks don't work. So it's impossible. And I'm thinking to myself, what if I was a single mom pushing around this stroller with a kid in it? Like, I have camping gear in this thing. If it gets hit, I'm going to be pissed for a few hours. I'll probably have to buy a new one. People will help out, whatever. But if there's a living creature in here, like, oh, I don't want to say a kid is a creature, but you understand what I mean. It's just like, that's a whole other issue that I feel like has kind of, we're built for these 2-ton vehicles, not the 200-pound dude walking to his job.
Here's my I'm going to sign it off. But here, any discussion I have about this topic, about, infrastructure is not built for it, I get it. I do. Like, take Atlanta, which I know the back of downtown Atlanta like the back of my hand. I've cycled every road in that place. So yes, infrastructure, we are what we call land strapped. We couldn't put a bike lane from one side of the city to the other if your life depended on it, because there ain't enough room anymore. You have literally had houses, townhomes, condos, whatever, up to the edge of the road. There's your fence. There's the back of your condo. There's nowhere to put a bike lane. I get it. So I'm going down, let's say me and you are going down a bike path, 8-foot wide bike path. That's what I was on yesterday from Smyrna to Anniston, Alabama, 104 miles. They converted an old railroad track, filled it in with concrete. It's 8 feet wide, and it's a bike path. It goes 104 miles, okay? So let's say me and you're biking on this bike path, and we're going, it's got a yellow line, dotted line down the middle, 4 feet and 4 feet. Me and you're going down this bike path on 2 bikes, and we can easily fit in 4 feet. That's pretty comfortable. We're paying attention, talking, having a good time, and we're coming up on 3 people walking side by side by side. They're taking up 5 feet. So basically the left person is over the yellow line. And they're enjoying themselves. They're not going to move. I understand it. I don't like it. But guess what? It's my job as the faster vehicle that can cause more damage to avoid the situation at all costs. I get on the left. Me and you go, we make sure nobody's coming at us in the other bike lane. If we're on a hill, we're on a curve, we're going to wait. We'll slow down and go behind the walkers at 4 miles an hour, whatever. And when it's clear for us to go, we're going to say on your left. And even when we say on your left, I know that left person may be like a squirrel and jump to the left. And if they do, I have to avoid that person. And so then we get around them, we go around, and we carry on, and everybody gets home safer. Why do drivers not held to the same accountability?
There's a, what is it? There's a saying, I'm trying to develop it still, and it's a silly kind of tongue-in-cheek rule that I have for myself, which is pee every chance you get, right? And
absolutely.
It's just do the basics, do the thing that takes the extra 10, 20, 30 seconds. Otherwise, you're gonna be in for a world of hurt later. And that was because I didn't use the bathroom when I had a chance to, and then I couldn't for 2 hours. And that hurt. And that's one of those cases where it's like, sure, I'm trying to go faster, I'm in a hurry, I'm trying to do these things. But if you just take the extra 30 seconds and you wait, you give that warning in this case, and you say, hey, on your left, you know, there's a chance that they could be silly and jump to the left. They could think, because I the first time that happened to me, I thought that meant go to the, whatever. You know, like you panic and you don't think and you say left, you know? So you're right. Like, and I think that's another thing too, is I feel like a lot of people don't have that accountability for themselves of like, what is it? Another example, I was with someone when, like, I don't know, a couple years ago, and we were coming up on a roundabout in a car. And they were driving, and I saw to our right that somebody else was coming pretty fast. And I was like, "Hey, slow down a little bit." And they're like, "Why? We're going to be in the roundabout first. We have the right of way."
Yeah.
Like, slow down. They slow down. They race through it. And I'm like, they're like, "Well, we would have had the right of way. If they hit us, it would have been their fault." I'm like, I hear you. You're correct.
But you're on the right side of the car. You were going to get hit.
I would have been the one that got hit. And it's like, would you rather be right or would you rather be dead?
Or have all that paperwork and
or
stuff
all that paper. Even if they, like, when the lady totaled my car, which she hit the back door of my car was a hunk of junk. Like, if she had waited an extra 10 seconds, I would have gone to work. I wouldn't have had to go to the emergency room. I wasn't at fault for it, but then I had months of headache.
That's right.
And it's like, if people would just take that extra few seconds, all of that could be avoided. And that's, you know, do the thing that takes an extra 30 seconds. That's it. That's all it's going to take.
Well, like one of my t-shirts says, you may come up behind a cyclist, but what is 15 to 30 seconds when we can all get home safer and you don't kill somebody? It's not worth it. Your job is not worth killing somebody. And I'm starting to see accountability. It's sad that you have to see it. And I don't believe in incarcerating everybody, but yet when people are so callous that they can hit and run somebody, leave a human being on the side of the road to die, I'm sorry, you need about 10 years in a cell by yourself to figure it out because you missed the boat somewhere.
Yeah, and again, it's just that level of, I don't want to get in trouble. And again, kind of that normalization of tragedy in that way that says, if I leave, there's no consequences for me. And I just feel like it's insane, but it's interesting. And I think there's a couple more things I want to touch on before we hop off here in a few.
Absolutely.
But with what you said about, so NFOFF, that means never forget our fallen friends.
Right.
And how many bikes are currently out there and how many do you have in the works?
Me?
Yeah.
Can't see it probably. It's yellow. Back of my hat, I always put a number on it. And a lot of the hats that I wear, I put the number upside down. So people go, hey, your number's upside down. And then I get to go into a conversation about why. I have 129 around the Southeast, anywhere from about an hour south of Orlando. My one farthest north is Asheville, North Carolina. Then you can go to Chattanooga. Then you can go probably just northwest of Birmingham, down to Pensacola, and all across the Panhandle. I'm sorry. I do have one in Santa Ana, California. A young man came up to me about, I think Josh was about number 10 or 15. And his one of the guys, Josh Alper was his name. Dawson Morton used to ride with me on that 6 a.m. ride, came up to me and he goes, I need your services. Well, I thought he wanted a tennis lesson. And I said, okay, so when you want to do your lesson? He goes, no, I need a ghost bike. My college roommate just got killed on the Santa Ana freeway. I want you to send him a ghost bike. I'm like, oh my. And it was a landmark case in California. The driver of a brand new Tesla was going south on the Santa Ana. Josh was riding his bike on the shoulder of the northbound lane, which has a median in between them. The driver went off the west side of the Santa Ana freeway, up on the bank, got tumbleweeds in his car, came back across those two lanes, went across the median, and then went over the road and onto the other median on the right side of where Josh was, and then came up and killed Josh. You know what he pleaded in court? You ready for this? I'm glad you're sitting down. He pleaded that the new car smell of the Tesla put him to sleep. And I'm going, it would have woke me up when I went off the first shoulder.
That's insane. And that's just the excuses. Like I've recently, like some of the podcasts I've been listening to, like sometimes they go over crazy court cases. Sure. And the things that people say to get out of it. We allow
it in court. We allow it. The judge is listening, wasting time on this. Oh my God. So
that's insane. Okay. So around 129, pretty much all over the country at this point, but centered mostly in your area.
Southeast. Yeah.
And when it comes to placing the bikes, do you just go exactly where it happened or nearby, or how do you decide where the bikes actually go?
I take into account, I'm a little more thoughtful than most of the people that listen to you or me. I mean, honestly, I know where the crash occurred. I usually read 3 or 4 or 5 articles on it, from the newspapers and stuff. If I need to, I might reach out to a reporter that did the article or something to kind of get a little more insight as to where it happened. But normally I will put it as close to the crash site as possible. I also take into account, number one, utility, phone pole workers, grass cutters, homeowners. I take all them into account and put it as close as I can without affecting any of that. And so I know the DOT in every state, they will pick them up very quickly unless I get them enough off the highway to where they don't think they're on the highway. I don't put them on the highway. I might put them off the shoulder a little bit, things like that. I mean, one of them I just put in Savannah, I found as close to an intersection as I could. And it was a state highway, not like a divided highway, but, 4 lanes going each way, 45-mile-an-hour speed limit. But I actually went over and found a pine tree and put 2 of my bike locks together and wrapped it. It was a pretty thick pine tree. And I put it around the pine tree and kind of cut some of the I go out with a full utility, a truck utility. I've got a machete. I got, things that I can cut stuff down with and try to make it to where maintenance of it is nothing that hard, But, 129, and I'm getting ready to plan a trip to North Carolina. I got a lady up there who her daughter was, she gave me one of the sayings is, maybe I've got it on a t-shirt. You can't see it. I'm going to turn this around so you can kind of, there we go. You might, no, you might not be able to see it. I should have did a regular background. I'm in my BFA office, and the thing that Bike Friendly that I thought would be very unique would be that anything you or anybody gets from Bike Friendly Atlanta that could be done would be done with the same hands that build the Ghost bikes. So you feel like you are actually a part, not a subsidize out. I don't make any money from what I do. People go, oh, you're a nonprofit. How much do you pay yourself? And I go, I don't make a dime. I use every bit of any money coming in to buy gas for my vehicle. My vehicle, I don't write off. I use it for these Ghost bike trips. I've been lucky to be sponsored by a bike rack company called Sea Sucker out of Delray Beach, Florida. Great guy. I emailed him and he said, whatever you want, you're doing exactly what we need to have done. And that is make our roads safer. And I was like, okay. And literally he sent me a $600 and $700 bike rack that goes on my car, really nice, free of charge, just the nicest guy. And he goes, you ever coming down? I said, Florida is one of the most crashed bicycle states, obviously, because it's warmer, like California. And he goes, I know we have people getting killed down here all the time. And I've been an hour south of Orlando, and one day I'm going to make a trip to the Miami area, maybe even Naples, and go across that end of the peninsula. And I'm going to wake some people up because a lot of people in that area go to work by bicycle, and it's just not right that they may never come home. And that's what I do it for. But 129 so far, getting ready for a trip to North Carolina, probably with about 6 or 7 on my car ready to go. And, that'll knock it up to 135. Don't know how many's out there, but sadly, I'm adding.
Yeah.
Hey everyone, just a quick message. You know that my mission with this podcast is to share stories of influence and impact so that we can help more people help more people. But to do that, I need your support. Please rate, review, and share this podcast. If I could ask for just one favor, it's to just leave a review. It takes about 10 seconds and a few clicks, but it means the world to me and could inspire someone else to make a difference. Thank you so much, and now back to the show.
Another question. So, 129, and that's the lowest the number will ever be moving forward until I feel like and again, that's what I think is so unique about this is that it's such a easy, you see that. And I think for me, it reminds me to pay attention, and hopefully it inspires drivers to see that and go, again, that level of accountability, like, okay, I need that reminder. Sure. So when it comes to placing the bikes, it sounds like you take a lot into consideration with the placement, making sure it's on the right area, the rights of way, making sure it's not going to affect mowing or private property, etc. And you mentioned at the very beginning that you've had some issues with, I don't want to get too political, I guess, about it. Sure. But like with local politicians or local things like that, how have you, I don't know, like worked with it to make it to where they don't just remove them immediately or that the message still stands? Like, how do you kind of navigate that? Because I'm sure we could be aggressive and, fist fight them in the McDonald's parking lot, but we can't really do that anymore. This isn't the 1800s. So how do you work amicably, whatever the word is? I'm just going to leave that in there for my own humbleness. But how do you kind of work with local decision makers, I guess, or how does that work?
Good luck.
Good luck. Okay.
Honestly, one of my, I would say this person is a very good, we don't know each other necessarily personally. Like we don't go hang out together and have some drinks together. We're not personal like that, but business wise, we know each other. One of the sponsors of the Ride of Silence that I put on here in Decatur every year, which is in May, it's an annual ride. It's a universal annual ride around the world on the third Wednesday of May every year at 7:00 local time that honors all the fallen friends of the past year. And I put it on in Decatur. I did it for about 4 years prior to the pandemic. And then when the pandemic hit, obviously we didn't do it for a year or two. And then this person who's a lawyer, represents a lot of bike, crash victims, but he's also a regular lawyer too, called me and said, I can't imagine doing this ride of silence in Decatur, because Decatur, Georgia, is the only silver city where they ranked it by, how many feet of bike paths you got, how bike friendly it is, things like that. It is by, I think it's by Bicycle Magazine does it. Decatur is the only silver city in the state of Georgia on their gold, silver, or bronze status. There are 4 other cities that are bronze. Decatur was bronze. They've started putting in a lot of protected bike lanes and stuff. But there are a lot of cyclists, even in the city, that, and you can, they ride to Stone Mountain. They ride out the east side of Atlanta a lot. It's a very unique little city. But it, he said, I want to do the Ride of Silence because it does do a good thing for our community. It raises awareness for safer streets and things like that. He goes, but I can't imagine doing it without you leading it, because this is who you are. And I said, yeah, I know. Sadly, that's what I've become. I'm the ghost bike guy that wears yellow when he plays tennis. And it's okay. I'm okay with that. But we have a good relationship, but I totally understand, kind of back to your question, he's a lawyer. I get it. I'm the time bomb that you want to keep at arm's length, because when I speak, what I say is not going to be filtered. It's not going to be politically correct. And you look at several of my like Instagram and Facebook, and it says, I'm a world-class tennis player, cyclist that is not politically correct. So be ready when you ask me, not you, but anybody asks me something, I'm coming. I'm coming full force. And I will, I've been to Savannah. Let me think how many bikes I've got in, let's say, Savannah. Within about 20 miles of downtown Savannah, I bet I got 15 ghost bikes in 15 years. It might be more than, Atlanta's got a lot around, like if you take the 9 counties, but 9 counties around Atlanta is a big area. It's huge. You got 7, 8, 9 million people. You ain't got 9 million people in Savannah. So, I went down to Savannah, 3, 4 years ago. They had this big ride in December. No, not December. It's in June or July. It's called Bragg, Bike Race Across Georgia. It's not really a race. It's just a ride. And they ride a pretty good ways, from like Atlanta to Savannah. And they take like 3 or 4 days. And there's a lot of people that are going out there with their friends just doing it. Well, they get down there the last day, and they're all coming into downtown Savannah. I mean, literally, what do they call it? Not the boardwalk, but it's like Main Street right by the daggum ocean. I mean, it's the Main Street where old historic Savannah is. And a lady, Judy probably had to be 45, 50 years old, riding right down. It's a concrete road, got, joints in the concrete. She gets her wheels caught in the concrete, flips her over on the left, and what's coming down the left lane didn't want to hear about it. And I went down there to put a bike out, and, here I go again. I'm thinking about how do I not disrupt, number one, commercialization, people walking, having dinners and everything. There's not much room on that sidewalk to put a bike. So I'm thinking that's off limits. That's just not going to happen. So then there's a park across the street. And over there, unbeknownst to me, they actually have bicycle tourists that will carry a couple of people around in a 3-wheel bicycle, and they're meeting right here. Well, right there is a concrete bench. And I'm thinking, perfect. Number one, she was on a bike. Number two, it's in a park. It's not near a street. It's not near a walkway. It's out of everybody. I'll even move it up forward enough to where the handlebars are not even behind the bench. So if somebody sits down, the handlebar won't hit them in the back. I'll move that up so that it's out of everybody's way. That thing got picked up within about a week because they don't want to see their tourism downplayed because somebody got killed on their street.
Yeah, so it sounds like even with taking in all those considerations that sometimes placement or, I don't know, it would affect, it affects the bottom line of somebody else.
Sure, it does. But in the long run, it's going to kill you. Not you. It's going to kill your infrastructure, your commercialization, because it ain't going to get, you can't hide it. It's there. And so here we go again. You know, she was a long time ago, and I've had 13, 14 since then.
Mm-hmm.
What's the problem? You ain't fixed it yet.
Yeah.
So, you know, I understand. And here we go again, you know, back to the original thing. You know, the owner of the car has got to be accountable. Right now, you can put in all the asphalt, all the protected bike lanes, all the walk lanes you want, but we're going to cross the street somewhere. And until you can hold the driver accountable on all efforts, nothing's going to happen.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's my mom, the driver's ed teacher. You know, she told me that if you can't drive a car safe enough, don't drive it. If you're going to impede traffic flow, impede it by driving improperly. You know, one of the biggest things I see now is you got a left turn lane and it's turning onto a road that has 2 lanes, you know, going the same direction. And that car will turn and go into the far lane every time. And I go, what you've done is impeded the right turning lane from the other way from getting on that same road and getting traffic out of the freaking way. But it's my road. So I guess I need to drive a tank to prove my point so that when I run you over, I'm sorry. It was my road first.
Yeah, it's just like, and it's like those extreme, like you have to have those hyperbolic examples of like, okay, well, what if it was this? And it's like, well, that's impossible. It's like, great, you're right. Now let's pull this down to the current situation.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. But, and then one last question, because I think that I have a theory on your guys' setup, but how much roughly does it cost to place one Ghost bike, from sourcing the bike, painting it, getting it where it needs to go? Like, how much does that cost, if you don't mind my asking?
Oh, I don't mind. You know, sourcing the bike. I mean, I get bikes donated all the time. When I was down in Decatur Friday, one of the guys I used to ride with, he had an old 1980 bike that, you know, like cars, once they get probably 15 bikes for sure, once they're more than about 15 years old, 20 years old, finding replacement parts gets harder and harder. They're vintage and they're fun to ride and they look unique when you ride them, but if they break down, you're fried. So you know, normally like on my bike, when I ride, I've got a couple spare tubes, maybe a spare tire, things like that. But anyway, so I'm getting them donated, and my lawyer guy, they collect them all the time. He has a basement full of bikes that some of them can't be serviced. They're just old. And he goes, anytime you want 5 or 6, come and get them. And I'm like, you're not going to have enough bikes. And there's not a good part to that. The bad part is that there's more people dying on bikes than we can get on bikes. And number 3, you're going to have a lot of business because you're an attorney for these people. And it's a good, bad situation all the way around, but is that the circle of life? Oh my God, is that a scary thought?
Yeah, I mean, having a constant supply of people injured for your attorney to represent is sad, but I do still think that, and again, I'm very much a bright side, cup half full.
There's a silver lining somewhere.
And it's like, there are people like you that bring awareness to the issue. There's people like him that represent those people so that they can get justice, that they can get, I guess, I don't want to even say the wrong righted, because you know, when you're injured like that, or if something happens, like you never go back to being the same, right?
Never.
But again, it's good that there are people that are when the worst happens, there's that spark of light. But it sounds like the bikes get donated, but then paint can't cost that much, or driving around doesn't. Like,
you ready for this? Here we go with inflation. So 2 years ago, this is the scary part. 2 years ago, a can of spray paint. It normally takes me about 1.5 cans of spray paint to do one bike. Okay. A can of spray paint was $3.24. It is now almost $7 a can. So when I know.
That's insane. Double.
I bought 6 cans the other day. It was almost $60. I was like, damn.
Yeah.
So it's scary. So then I also buy the little bike lock that you can buy with one little key on it. And that's usually what I chain them up with. And I got the bike, I got the paint. I don't charge anybody for warehousing bikes or what. I mean, you'd hate to see my garage. It ain't nothing but bikes, but it's okay. It's okay. That's what I give to hopefully know that one day my mom is going to welcome me home and go, you did good. You did what nobody else would think about doing. And you challenged every political specter to get a place safer for everybody. Not the rich, not the poor, not the well-off, not those without, not the homeless, everybody. And so basically, I try to narrow it down one time. Obviously, the biggest cost is me transporting it to wherever. I've been to Pensacola, I've been to south of Orlando, 6.5, 7 hours one way. And with gasoline now, and I've got a very economy car, like almost 38 miles to the gallon. So I'm getting pretty good gas mileage. When I go out, it's 6 or 7 ghost bikes and it's efficient. I don't waste money. And I tell people 100% of your donation goes to the cause and none of it coming to me. I mean, you can't see it, but I'll take some pictures and put them on Instagram and you can share them if you want to. But with the money people have donated, I bought a T-shirt printing machine, which is right here on the other side of my tablet. It has 4 stations. I have silk screens. I do all the screens myself. I make them all. I do mugs. I do, oh my God, hats. Everything that I can is made with the same hands that make the ghost bike. So you feel like you are getting a 100% original piece of the ghost bike. Back to your question, probably I would say if you wanted to add in gasoline for like one bike to go to, let's say Pensacola, that's about 6-hour drive, 6.5-hour drive. You're probably talking cost of the material is probably only about, let's say, gas and paint. You're probably talking $75 maybe. If you're talking time into painting the bike, that could probably that's probably about, I think one time I estimated it being about from the time of picking up a bike to getting it here to dismantling it so that there's not extra stuff to paint and all that, taking off the chain, the cables, all that. Probably about 10 to 15 hours a bike. So, if I'm taking 6 bikes out, I'm putting in probably 100, 120 hours per bike and cost of maybe, it'll only cost me about, well, you figure what I say, $60 for 6 cans of paint, maybe. So you're talking about 100 hours, maybe about $100 in paint total. I do have stickers that I put on the head tube, which is the Bike Friendly logo. I buy these. Oh, you can't see it. I buy these little. You can see it kind of. See, it's white on the back. I'm trying to flash this so you can see it in the thing. But anyway, there it is. Got a line, but then I paint it black on the back. That's the sign you see on that bike right behind me. Then I have a Pre-Cut machine that I print out all the letters on high adhesive vinyl that goes on there. Hopefully, it'll stay for a year or two, and that would be nice. Probably, I would think around maybe a couple $100 a bike. That's a rough estimate,
yeah.
But here we go again. I don't care. I care about where we're going and what we're doing, and if people want to read in, I've had some of my former students that are big internet sensations and things like that. One of them's giant on TikTok and all this. They all tell me that if I could find a way to make more money, that I could help more people with more money. And I look at them and I go, I'm not going to compare myself to anybody because I don't. I live my life being me. And that's when I'm the happiest and the most stress-free that I can be. And I get more done doing that. And how many people did Jesus have endorsing his product? And people look at me and go, well, and I'm not comparing, not at all. Yeah. But what I'm doing is along the same lines. I don't want money because money is kind of the problem. If you really want to look at the whole system, it's not doing what's right. It's doing what you can get away with. And when you get caught, how do we get out of that being caught? Well, you shouldn't have done wrong in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
And I think that's what I really want to get across is that, it costs, $200 to put out this bike, right?
Yep.
Which sounds like a lot, but with the impact that it makes, I think even just having one person slow down, having them be a little bit more perceptive, having them be
Absolutely.
more like that's worth the world. And with 200 almost 150 bikes almost,
right?
Like that's such a small price to pay to save somebody else. And I think that that's what I want to kind of get across is you don't need to make $1 million to make an impact. You can do it with a $200 bike that you place somewhere in remembrance of someone else to hopefully save 1, 2, however many people.
Just think that if one bike makes somebody think that their loved one, their father, their mother, their grandpa could be the next person to not come home. It not only on a bike, but walking in and out of a Walmart or being in a car. And you could have done something to just slow people down and make our roads safer. This began as a bicycle mission, but it's not anymore. It's a safer roads for everyone to use. And when one of my shirts says, if you don't think bicycles, pedestrians, and cars can get along on our roads, you are the problem. And it's as simple as that,
Yep.
If anybody says, yeah, but, then you need to stop them right there and tell them you're trying to find a reason for a car to be the only thing on the road. And even if you do, one of my other shirts says, I got a bunch of shirts. One of my other shirts says, what do you have if you take every pedestrian and bicyclist off the road in America? In Georgia alone, you'll still have 1,500 deaths by car alone. So what's the problem?
Yeah, exactly. It's insane, but I'm glad that there are people that are, again, bringing awareness to it, that are so passionate about it, that are willing to, put up with the BS, with the red tape that's needed in order to make this happen. So as a guy that's walked across, at this point, 2,000 miles of road in a year, thank you for what you do. And if people want to support you or learn more about your mission, David, what would be the best way for them to find you online?
Well, they can go to, I've got Instagram and Facebook, which is Bike Friendly ATL on either one. I've got quite a pretty good following on Instagram. I think I've got about 7,000 or so on Facebook. I do events on there all the time. BikeFriendlyATL.org is the website. I update as much as I can, but usually Facebook and Instagram are faster updates for me because I can do like live feeds from there. My website's a little bit hung up on the live feed kind of stuff, so I do most of that through Instagram where more of my followers are. I have just started getting into TikTok. I'm same name there, Bike Friendly ATL. And I'm going to start doing some TikTok videos on safer driving. How do you landscape or how do you maneuver around cyclists and pedestrians when you're using our roads in a safe manner? So that hopefully people will just listen and go, maybe this guy's not so wacko. Maybe we all can be safer in cars too, So.
Awesome. No, that's fantastic. I mean, that information is definitely what is needed. So again, David, I'll link all that down in the show notes, your Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, website, as well as a direct donation link for you. And if anybody has any questions or would be interested in starting this or doing something similar where they are, would they be able to contact you to kind of ask for advice or some assistance with that? Awesome.
Yeah, they can always email me at bikefriendlyatl@gmail.com.
Perfect. All right, David, thank you again, and I'll be sure to chat with you later.
You betcha. Be safe out there.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to today's episode. I hope that you're able to take a nugget or two from our conversation today and apply it to your business, nonprofit, or life in general. All of David's social media accounts are linked in the show notes below. If you'd like to support Bike Friendly ATL or start something similar in your area, please reach out to David directly to see how you two can collaborate. And y'all, we've got plenty of more episodes on the horizon, and I'm so excited to share some magic with all of you.
If you'd like to share some of that magic with your community, please write us a review and share this episode with a friend. Just like David said during our interview, if we can share messages with our community, we can really turn this whole thing around. I'll see you all next week. And as always, have fun, stay safe, and be yourself.